2014. What a year. It was interesting. I found a number of reports online of what some of the biggest stories were. So I'm going to look at what they say in the U.S. and what they say globally. And on both cases, they think that the number one story of the year was Ebola. What a year.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was, that on so many levels, I mean, that was such an important thing, you know. I mean, the response to it was probably inadequate. And for my money, you know, we're talking about thousands of people who died in places like Sierra Leone. But the media did not come out of it well, you know. I mean, they really only woke up when a kind of Spanish nurse was in quarantine, and you know, and there was an effect on the Western democracies, you know, when we're seeing kind of thousands of people dead in West Africa. It's appalling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting, again, it just shows the vagaries of the media. I mean, it's been now, what, a few weeks, I think, since Ebola was on the headlines. So, it's one of these stories where, I mean, I don't know how much it was, from a Western perspective, it was this massive, huge panic and the media, the way that they reported was, is it going to spread to the West? And when now it looks like it's not going to spread to the West, then it suddenly becomes a story that isn't.
It's off the front pages then.
It was very interesting, though, that the Times Person of the Year were all of the Ebola carers and
Right.
all the work that they did. You know, I especially liked that nurse from the U.S. state of Maine who, you know, basically thumbed her nose at Chris Christie and all these other politicians that were trying to, you know, quarantine her. She said, look, I'm not symptomatic. There's nothing going on. You can't catch the disease from me or anyone else. Yet, because these politicians in the media went nuts, the furore rose.
Yeah.
You know, the number two story this year was the passing of the great comedic actor Robin Williams. Now, that was in both the U.S. and here in the U.K., where, you know, his passing was marked, and it was truly astonishing to see him die in the way in which he did. He took his own life, and it turns out that he had just been diagnosed with a very aggressive and advanced form of Parkinson's disease, and it was such a tragedy, such a manic yet.
It was great talent. I mean, you know, who's going to say Nanu in the obits, you know? But he was fantastic talent, and there's such energy there in the way he came across, you know. But you just don't know. I mean, this whole Tears of a Clown thing, you just don't know what's going on, do you?
Yeah, it's amazing well, not necessarily amazing, but the high esteem in which Robin Williams is obviously thought of in Western culture. When you think of all the other people that have passed away this year, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Richard Attenborough, Bob Hoskins, it's Robin Williams, this comedian, who obviously did strike a chord on many different levels as a stand-up comedian, as a TV star and a film star. But he obviously was somebody who related very much to the public in various ways.
Another big story was the rise of ISIS, or ISIL. Truly a barbaric and astonishing group. I mean, there have been more than 60 journalists killed this past year, and some of them very gruesomely at the hands of ISIL with the beheadings or ISIS or whatever. I mean, it was just to see so many colleagues and to see the way the media is treated. It's really scary. Can anything be done to stop them becomes the question, particularly as we start to withdraw troops from these areas and the vacuum begins to grow.
It's very, very difficult. I mean, this is an organisation that's so it has such an appalling issues in relation to, as I say, you know, opposition to women education and opposition to gay rights and all the rest of it. I mean, there is an analogy, if you look at history, I think, in terms of the rise of anarchy and anarchism at the turn of the 20th century, you know, and they were chucking bombs at people, and the media response was as well, you know. I mean, how do we deal with these people? Yeah, you know, it's almost a hysteria, because there's almost something in relation to a people or an organisation that don't have any recognisable views. You know, I mean, it's so abhorrent to people in the West. ISIS is so abhorrent to people in the West, as indeed anarchism was in the 20th century, you know. So it is a very grave issue in relation to how you respond to these things.
I think there has to be a little bit of a self-reflexive look at ourselves in the West again when we're criticizing, you know, this horrible group. Obviously, I'm not sort of mitigating them at all, but you know, it goes back to the Iraq War. It goes back to the war on terror, and when the West seems to go into these regions, particularly Islamic regions, and leaves a vacuum of power, what comes up always seems to be worse than what was before, even though what was before was pretty terrible.
Look what we've created. Let's talk a little bit about the Sony hack. This thing is really quite terrifying. I mean, this is terrorism on a technological scale. I mean, the fact that this group now, at least according to the US, linked to North Korea, they have stopped the release of the film The Interview, which was supposedly about Kim Jong-il or Un or whatever, who his name. And, you know, basically they've released emails. The media's covered it terribly in terms of, you know, putting these emails out there. This is terrifying stuff.
Dario, where do you come from on this, man?
Well, I mean, it's kind of amazing. I mean, isn't I've read this morning that the whole relationship to the sense that this is connected somehow to North Korea is a conspiracy theory and a mythology. It's sort of hackers that are you know, trying to out these stories with no sort of compunction of what they mean in a sort of wider sense. It's really odd to me. I haven't really got my head around what's going on here, but I mean, it seems to be related in a wider context to the way that the use of the internet is influencing news, and it could be linked to the sort of stories of hacking of celebrities in a different kind of way. But the way that Sony has sort of backed down on this is really interesting, I think.
Yeah, because you're a film lecturer. Is this going to form part of your teaching there, Dario?
Well, yeah, I think it probably will do in the future. I mean, again, I think we're only in the first few days of what the implications of this mean. But I've never heard of companies kind of backing down, and I think not just in the film industry. These major corporations are going to start to look very carefully at their cyber security in the future, if this seems to be the future of the way information is going to get leaked.
Well, information is the key, absolutely. I mean, to me, it's a flip side of, as we were talking about, the kind of communication revolution. It's great to have these things and information all out there, but the filter mechanism isn't there for that, and you will get things like this. Our privacy and basically people are looking at issues like that, and they're looking at issues in relation to where you are and where you live, and that's all out there, and this is all part of that. Films are being hacked.
It does beg the question: is all information that is discovered online, is it ethical just to dump that out into the public sphere?
Yeah, Aaron Sorkin was interviewed yesterday on the Today Show, the NBC American program, and he asked that same question. He said, somebody's email being snarky, if Sony were involved in some sort of misdeeds, then yes, all bets are off. But to hear two employees snarkily going back and forth to each other, is that news? I mean, this is the question that's come up in the Cosby case with, and particularly the most recent University of Virginia case where the rape was alleged, and Rolling Stone came out and reported about it, and they had to eventually retract the entire story. Where is the line? Let's do one more story, and that is Ferguson and Staten Island. I mean, that's the other big story of 2014, and what's happened as a result of trying to raise people's awareness of police overreach.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really big one, this, for me. I mean, it's symbolic in terms of coming to the end of the Obama presidency, the first black president, and you have these stories now where, that almost the sort of social contract for black people in the United States is no more, and it shows the deep division of race that is going on in America, and black people seem to have no protection from the state and the judicial system anymore. And again, that the fact that this happened within the first black presidency's terms is absolutely incredible, really.
Well, it's been quite a year. Let's at least close on a positive note. The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, over $100 million raised for this particular charity. Truly remarkable. And so many people did it. Now you've got Morgan Freeman trying to get people to, in the footsteps of Ferguson, do the same thing with the singing challenge. So it's truly amazing. Well, gentlemen, we had a lot of people leave us in the course of the last year, and we'll run a little roll showing all the people that we've lost. Many of them were truly tremendous in a variety of different fields. Well, folks, we began this experiment on the 18th of September 2014, and here we are 14 episodes later, looking back on a growing body of work and very eager for 2015. Gentlemen, it's been a heck of a pleasure. We're making huge strides,
we're getting there.
And the coming year is going to be even better. And when we count our holiday blessings, we are most grateful to the company of each other and to you, the listener. We wish you the happiest of holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, or whatever you choose to celebrate. Just remember when you celebrate to take along the Three Muckrakers podcast to share with your friends and family. Nothing warms the heart more than igniting a robust political debate and discussion around the holiday meal table. Thanks everyone for listening, and goodbye.
The Three Muckrakers podcast is produced by Monk Dash Media in association with Thing 1 and Thing 2 Productions. Copyright 2014, all rights reserved.